So what's up, Flip Factor family? This is Michael Green with the Flip Factor Podcast, the #1 podcast dedicated to teaching you how to find and win high-profit flips that make you more money. You can have freedom to do whatever the F you want. And today we're going to figure out how to instantly overcome fear of rejection when negotiating with Delante Desouza, my regular co-host, who's in here as much as we can humanly get him, even though he's got a very booked schedule these days because he's pretty important. Oh, this guy's going to probably cost $100,000 an episode in the future. So save these, because Delante, you will not be able to get a hold of him anymore. You will have to have his people call your people, and that's going to be really tough.
Yep.
Unless you know me, I'll be on the entourage, so I'll probably be there. He already gave me as a job as his driver.
Inside Connect.
Exactly. For some reason, I've been around all these days. I knew one day it would work out. Whoever made it big first. So let me jump in some quick announcements. We'll make them really quick so we can get right into the training, right into the meat of what you jumped on here for and all the cool stuff. So quick announcement. If you want to learn how to flip houses and find more deals that win more profits and in any market without using any of your cash, then check out my website. I have a free online training called the Flip Factor. Well, the training is called How to Consistently Win and Find Deals in Any Market Without Any of your cash. So it's a free training, but it's on the flipfactor.net. That's the best place to go to get it. That, or just, maybe text Delante personally. He can send it to you also. You want to give me your phone number, Delante?
Yeah, it's 555-555-5556.
Okay, first of all, I know that's not your number, Delante. You want to know how I know?
How?
Because that's the same number a girl gave me at the bar one time, and that was totally not a real number, and I didn't know until I called her. There's your mistake. You used the same number she used.
Oh, man.
I've been there and done that. I learned that is not a real number, 555-555-556. So I've been around the block, Delante. I'm wise. You can't
Smart.
pull the wool over me, man.
Smart man.
Exactly. You can also email me at mike@theflipfactor.net if I didn't say that already. Delante, welcome.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to talk about this, actually, because I think that this is a very important topic.
It is, man, because you know why? I'm moving up, getting comfortable here so we can get right in the zone. Well, nobody likes rejection.
Especially me.
I would say even more especially me.
Okay, so here's how I want to come at this, right? I feel like as a new investor, first of all, rejection sucks, period. And we've learned that from the crush that we had at school that thought we were ugly or something like that. I feel like it's even more scary when you're dealing with sellers and dealing with deals, because there's a lot more on the line, right? What do you think is most important when negotiating, especially to overcoming fear that you might have of being rejected or anything that might happen?
Well, jumping in, let's start a little bit. You're right. Some of the worst rejections. And I feel like before we jump into that answer, we need to talk about what was the worst rejection you've ever had, Delante?
I'm tearing up thinking about this. I think it was 5th grade. I had a crush on this girl at school. It was really bad. It was I would come home. I don't know. I was a weird kid back then. I would pretend it's weird. I liked her a lot, and I was super shy, super quiet. I think we had a little elementary school dance or whatever, super PG, nothing crazy or anything like that. But it was a big deal. I remember I asked my friend, that was a kid I talked to or whatever. He's one of my good guy friends. I asked him to ask the girl that I liked if she wanted to go to the dance with me. So he went over there. He went over there and asked her. And then he came back and he was like, yeah, man, she just sees you as a friend. And I was like, what? And
You got friend zoned in the 5th grade?
I got friend zoned. But the sad part about it was I waited literally until the end of the school year. So there was no second chances, we'll find another girl that I have a crush on. It was elementary school was over.
I'm not even going to go into mine because I feel like it's almost the same story. Now we know, ladies, be gentle with us when we're young. We both turned out weirdos for a reason. Now we know why. It was the 5-year-old, the 5th grade girls, right, who've rejected us. Yeah. So there's probably some of those emotions that come up when a seller says no to us, even though, often it's polite. They're not being mean about it. They're just not saying yes. And I would imagine there's some connection to our younger selves who were kind of powerless and hadn't learned to deal with rejection that quite commonly comes up in life. I would bet there's almost a little bit psychologically that connects to that. So this is really off subject, but on subject pretty much too, though, because you really think about it. That's it's that fear of that feeling that we had when we were a 10-year-old that makes us not want to do it as an adult. the one thing I can tell you is that my fear of rejection is the reason I didn't get started in this business for so many years. This subject is a really big subject because for many years I had a dream of being a house flipper and always wanted to. And I believe personally, just being honest, I feel like, like being very authentic with you guys is that the reason it took me 6 years of reading books and wanting to be so perfect at it before I did one is because I didn't want to fail, right? Failing is like a rejection. I didn't want people to think I was a failure or stupid or didn't know what I was doing or a fool, right? I didn't want that from people or people to see me that way. So that made me never really take action. Rejection is something that a good friend of mine told me that you only have one or two things. And he was actually a dating coach. And what he told me, he was one of my, students for a while and somebody not for house flipping, but a business coaching student. And one of the things he told me that I loved is he's like, you either get like a yes when you ask for something or you get a funny story, right? You just have to take the no's and turn them into a funny story. And then maybe it's a funny story and how you try to get around the no can be a funny story. But when we connect it to that like fifth grade rejection by the girl we wanted to take to the dance, it's very difficult, right? Psychologically, we can put walls up and this becomes a big subject. By the way, all throughout our business, right? Not just finding deals, but talking to contractors, them telling us that we're crazy because we want something done for X. All these things happen and it's really very over controlling everything you do. Having what I call social freedom, it's something I've been working on for the last, say, 3 to 4 years, trying to be socially free, stop worrying about what people think of me, being super authentic and honest. And that's why you hear guys here, I come out with all the, I let you know everything about me, right? I'm not a perfect person and I've not been a perfect person. I come from a great place and try to help people, but you know what? You got to be honest with people because that's part of my social freedom work. I want to be socially free. I don't care what people think. Within reason, I'm not going to walk around in trash bags naked, but because I still care a little bit, right? I don't care. I'm not that far detached, but I don't care about this petty stuff, like worrying about, there's some people that are always going to hate what you're doing. There's some people that are just going to say no matter how awesome your offer is, right? You can make the highest offer possible and they're just going to say no. So if at the end of a conversation, when you make someone an offer, they're going to be like, all right, let me think it over. Or you know what? They're not usually going to tell you it's not enough money. They're going to give you some other vague excuse. So what we want to do is deal with that objection ahead of time. So imagine if you could say, okay, you can go through my Rolodex of like years of doing this and finding like, okay, there's probably 3 to 4 things people commonly say. And those 3 to 4 things are going to come up. And as you're speaking with someone on the phone, you're out seeing their house, as you're interacting with them, you essentially are working through those objections before you ever ask for anything. This is like the ninja way to never get rejected. So a lot of people are like, how did you get so good at sales, Mike? Like, who was your coach? And I was like, well, the real driver was my fear of rejection. So I hated being rejected so much that I started finding these really cool ways of not getting rejected. Because see, at some level, as much as I hate rejection, the person who's rejecting you hates confrontation. They feel like when they reject you, it's confrontational. So you're losing rapport when you make them reject you. So what the best way of doing it is throughout the conversation, just having these very loose, soft conversations around the things we know might become objections later. So that way, when we get to them, it's a very, very easy conversation. You might even already know the answers to some stuff, and it might be more of a deep dive into the solution instead of worrying about them just saying no to you and then it getting very confrontational. So that's my answer. I'd love to hear any feedback you have on it.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the advice that you gave, you either get a yes or a funny story. That's such a great way to twist the perceived failure and consequences that we create in our heads about getting rejected and dealing with sellers and stuff. Because when we do this, it's such a scary thing. We think that we're gonna die sometimes, right? If we get a no or something. But if you turn it into well, they said no and they seem pretty upset and laughed at my offer and kicked me out the house. Well, that's a cool story to have, right? I think that positive spin on it is a really helpful tip and is really powerful.
One of my students, Alec from San Diego, funny story. And he either had a rejection or a funny story, but he had an appointment at 5 o'clock, and I might be getting some of these details wrong. He showed up 3 hours early and just knocked on the door before the other person came. She basically said someone's coming at 3, you can come at 5 or 4:30, something. He got there before the person, knowing they were coming, kind of just came up and said, hey, I know I'm early, but I just wanted to jump in real quick, and then proceeded to close the deal. Now, if he would have gotten rejected there, that would have been a funny story. Like how he came up and tried, but you know what? He's in San Diego. It's a competitive market. And I'm pretty sure he would not have gotten this deal if he would not have made that move. Kudos to him. He didn't end up having a funny story. He's had an awesome story where he won a house he's going to make like 40, 50K on. And, in San Diego, where it's one of the most competitive markets in the country. So he's able to take that house down by being thoughtful and being more proactive and not waiting to hope that everything worked out. And if he would have got rejected, it would have been a really hilarious story that just like beating on someone's door 3 hours early. Like, oh, my bad. I thought you said 4:30. I'm here at 1:30. I think that's funny, by the way. And if you can really wrap your head around making it more funny and just being very playful with it and having a lot of fun with it, it'll really give you permission to go do what's necessary to win. Being too in your head and too worrying about how people view you will definitely sabotage your results for sure, or has sabotaged mine for sure.
Kind of switching gears a little bit. What are some of the top rejections that you hear when you make an offer to sellers? You've gone out on, over 1,000 appointments at this point in your career. What are some things you hear commonly?
Yeah, so I've done over 1,000 deals. I think I might have been over 10,000 appointments probably because I'm like 1 in 10. So it's that sick how many appointments I've been on over the years. The number one, and I think this is number one you're going to hear all the time, is I need to think it over, or some form of I need to think it over. So people love to say like, well, I don't make decisions on the spot. I need to think about this. However, what we do, right, is we always are going to say ahead of time, like, look, I'm going to come out prepared to make you an offer, but my offers are based on my available cash. With that being said, are you in a position where you can give me a yes or no when I come out? So that's prefacing it when we do that, right? We're not waiting for them to tell us they need to think it over. We're going to make them promise that if we come out and make them an offer that's acceptable to them, they'll give us a yes or no. And if they can't, then we won't make the offer. We won't make the offer until they're in a position to give us feedback. Because see, what we don't want is that I got to think it over and then we never hear from them again. And who knows, right? But I need to think it over. Really, any objection you get, honestly, is always based in one thing, usually the money. Right? It always comes down. There's always a price where someone does not need to think it over. So think of that, right? When they say I need to think it over, you could easily say, well, it's usually comes down to price. Is there a price that you'd be willing to do this deal? Right? That's pretty much the answer to almost every objection. Second one I hear a lot is I need to talk to family members or, my husband. And again, they're basically just telling you, I'm not so sure with your offer, right? There's some unanswered questions that just don't make sense yet. Or, I was expecting something very different and than what you offered. So, they want some time to kind of like weigh their options. And unfortunately, some of the weighing their options might be getting other people out there to compete and see if they can beat it. It's a very unfavorable position for you to be in because if they're looking to find someone to beat your offer, well, guess what? Anything we look for in this world, we find, right? If you're looking to make $300K a year flipping, working 10 hours a week, you will find the answers of how to do that, right? With the right resources and coaching and help, you totally can do it, but you have to be looking for it first. See, our limiting beliefs stop us from looking for so many things. When they start looking for a better offer, they're very likely to find it. So our job is to make them the very best offer they want today. And if we can, at least have the no, if we can have that no, right? We want them to say no to us, and then we can have a discussion around why it's a no. What would it take to be a yes? Now, that doesn't mean we have to pay the price they want. It only means we had the power of saying yes or no, not losing it over $5K or a couple $1,000 that we could have paid. And then the last one is I have other investors coming to the property. I have a couple other investors like to see what they have to say. But again, another form of effectively saying, your number's not good enough yet. Because I can tell you many times, if my number was strong, they're like, I have other investors coming, but that's more than I wanted, so I'll just cancel them.
So can you do like a walkthrough of that one specifically? Because I've heard that one so many times, deals where it's like, well, I have somebody coming at 2 to see it, somebody at 3. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard that. So
a role play?
Yeah. You got my mind.
Okay, let's role play it, dude. Let's get in there. So, all right, we're going to just do it on the fly, I guess. All right, well, you're going to be the buyer that doesn't want to, that has other people coming out, and I'll be making you the offer. Based on the numbers we ran, the comps I showed you and everything you've seen, our offer would be $85,000.
Okay, sounds good. I actually have a couple of other investors coming to see the property today, so I'm not, I wouldn't be able to make a decision today, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I understand that. That makes a lot of sense. And I know when we talked on the phone, I told you we were coming out prepared to make you an offer, and you said you could make a decision, a yes or no on the spot. Normally when people tell me that they kind of want to wait and see what other people are offering, it's usually because my offer is not high enough. Is that the case here?
I wouldn't say not high enough, but I'm just not sure, what I could be getting. And if obviously I don't want to like sell it for dirt cheap, but at the same time, I know, $85,000 is a lot of money. Just kind of want to see what else is out there.
That makes sense. You just want to make sure you're getting the most money.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, I came out prepared to buy the property, and I'd really like to make a decision today. Where would I have to increase my offer in order for you to cancel those appointments and sell me the house now? Because I'm really committed to buying the property. I mean, I can tell you trust me and I trust you, and we like each other a lot and we get along really well. And so it's just really a matter of getting the number that you would be convinced is a really solid number.
That's a good question, Mike.
We don't have to wait. They always answer, by the way. Just for the record, they almost always answer. It's pretty rare they're like, well, I just don't know. I just want to shop. Because who wants to shop, right? Who wants to sit there and talk to strangers? And that's the next thing I'll say is like, look, I know if you're like me, you don't want to talk to a bunch of strangers, right? We're not strangers anymore. We've gotten to know each other over this last half hour, 45 minutes I've been out here. I feel really comfortable with you. I really want to work with you. It's just, let me know the number. Now, again, Jay might tell me a number much higher than I can pay, but what I'm getting past is their objection of I can't make a decision now. Because see, I want them to tell me some number because now it proves they could make a decision if my number was better. And now once I get them to where they're locked in that they could make a decision, we can get rid of that objection, right? We can get rid of it because once it's gone, they won't be the objection anymore. We can now just talk about the real objection, which is price.
And one of the things I noticed during that role play that you did that I kind of want to point out, you didn't really give me an excuse to get out of saying yes or no to your offer. It was more of a jumping in directly and figuring out what the number needed to be, which for me, it gave me clarity on my end on what I was looking for. And I'm sure for you as the buyer, as the one trying to get the deal, it puts you forward further towards your goal.
Yeah, it does for sure. And honestly, the win there is when you get them to tell you where they need to be. Even if that number's too high, that's when you know you've won. I can promise you that if you get that information from people, your close rate will double, like legitimately just double. What most people do is they just take the first no as a no. And then they're like, hey, call me back in a couple days or when can I follow up with you? I personally have done that. I might even done it recently. But the thing is, when I do it, I pay attention and I don't do it the next time. Asking someone to sell you the property and just being straightforward with them really will lead to them giving you a yes way more. Because some old coach of mine told me you have to get 5 no's on average to get a yes. So if you're just out there getting 1 no, most of the time you're going to be missing deals you could have gotten. I know that I've had many deals stole from me where maybe that person who came in before me was more aggressive, right? They came in, they didn't take no for an answer because guess what? If I'd have came out, I probably would have gotten it done. They knew like it was either now or never. Problem is a lot of times people don't know how to do that because they don't know how to approach just being direct and straightforward and nice to people. So that's why I always up front, we preface it before we come out. We ask them, are you in a position to say yes or no? Now, if they're like, no, I got 2 other people coming and I really want to get estimates from them, then I might ask them on the phone. I'm like, well, listen, if I come out and make you a strong offer, is there any number that you would consider canceling those appointments and selling to me? And if they're like, yeah, there is probably a number. I'm like, well, let me get out there and let's talk about it, right? I wouldn't try to get it over the phone because I don't want to negotiate over the phone to do any big business over the phone. I want to do it face to face when someone has the opportunity to, because our negotiation from our side is going to be pretty weak if we haven't seen the property. Like, how can we hardcore, keep our position when we haven't even seen the property? So it's kind of fruitless to do heavy negotiation on the phone. You might want to get some people, like some light negotiation, maybe get some people in the ballpark, make sure you're not wasting your time. But, trying to negotiate someone down to like an exact number when you haven't even seen their house, it doesn't lend a lot of credibility. Does that make sense?
It sounds like you do a lot of the work that you do on the phone is the prefacing for the negotiations to actually occur when you get there so that it's like already set up.
I was just training Tanya, who's our new acquisitions person, and legitimately she asked on the phone, I asked on the phone before the appointment. I always call and say, hey, I'm going to be out like in 40 minutes just confirming our appointment. I know you talk with Tanya, you haven't met me yet, and Tanya's going to be coming with me. Great. Hey, I just want to ask a few more questions to prepare for our appointment. And then as one of the questions I'm ever going to ask every single time is like, tell me a little bit about, I'm going to come out prepared to make you an offer because I'm looking to buy a house pretty quickly. And everything Tanya told me, you're looking to sell pretty quick. But, a lot of times there's a lot of moving parts and things like these. If I made you an offer you were really happy with and thought was really fair, are you in a position to give me a yes and, go ahead and sell me the property today when I come out? And like, if it's a no, then I'm saying, oh, tell me more about that. Right. And then I'm going to dig into it. Now, if I think I can convert it to a yes, or it's something that doesn't make sense, I'll try to do that. And if not, then totally, I just won't make the offer. So I'm not making the offer until I know I can get a yes, because what I'll tell you will make you lose properties all the time and make you feel very rejected is when you make an offer and then they talk to 5 other people and they just somebody else is more aggressive with them and, you know, more assertive. I don't like to use the word aggressive as much as more assertive and asking for what they want and the straightforward, like, here's what I'd like. And then they just give it to them. Well, someone's more, and then you feel rejected. Like, it's left me many times when people don't call me back. I'm like, we loved each other and I made them such a strong offer. Like, why didn't they work with me? And honestly, a lot of times they didn't even sell it for more. They might sell it for the same price or 1,000 more. And they just felt pressured into working with someone else and didn't feel like, you know, continuing. Like, a lot of people don't have the energy to continue the negotiation. So it's important that we like go 100% all in and try to get these deals in these competitive markets. When things weren't as good, you could get away with being a little slower. These days, you got to take it down if you can. If they are in a position to make a decision, then you need to make sure you're the one that helps them make that decision. You got to coach them through it.
In essence of all of this, it sounds like overcoming fear when negotiating is really just about knowing what you want, going in there and asking for it. And if you get it, that's awesome. And if not, you got a funny story to tell.
Yes. And think of it like a chess game, right? I mean, there's always a move and there's moves and counter moves. And when we get a no, that's just a move, right? We have to figure out what is the counter move to that no, right? There is an optimal counter move to that. And one of the moves that is not the optimal counter move is being butthurt and crying when someone rejects you and says no. So like, that is not the most optimal counter move. It's probably the least optimal counter move. The best would just be like, oh, you see, I agree with everything you said. So if someone's like, no, that's not enough. And like, we really need to think it over. And I don't know, we might sell to this other person. Well, I would say I totally understand that, Delante, and I would agree with them. That way it's not confrontational. I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm sure you're just looking to get the most money for your property. And then they're like, yeah, I am. Well, thank you for being understanding of that. Then we can talk a little more because see, I wasn't being a jerk and I wasn't being butthurt and I wasn't offended. Because see, if I feel rejection, well, rejected Mike ain't the nicest person you've ever met, right? Nobody is. I'm sure rejected Delante is no fun. Like no one is when we feel rejection. We kind of aren't our best selves. So it's important that we really understand it's not rejection. It's just not the right time. And maybe we can make it the right time. And that's our job to figure out if that's the case and we can make it the right time, or we just end up with a funny story of how we really tried hard and it didn't work. And sometimes we end up with amazing stories how we tried really hard and we made it happen where we would normally would have lost the deal. So that's how you overcome rejection. You just got to realize it's not that big a deal. Even though it does initially, we're framing it in a way where it's very personal, but it's just not. Like a lot of, remember if you put yourself in other people's shoes and you get out of your own head, they're dealing with one of the biggest decisions of their lives. A lot of times someone's passed away or someone's in a really, really messed up financial position or they got a serious motivated problem. It isn't even fair for us to be in our own heads and worrying about how we feel. This is truly about them, right? It's about where they are and how we might be able to serve them in a way that helps us get a deal and helps them solve their problem. And that's really the thing. If you get out of your own shoes and out of your own stuff, and we realize that, like, let's think of how we can best help them, then rejection is not even part of that, right? Because like we can't be rejected because we're in service to them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Dropping some deep stuff on you, man. We're getting deep towards the end, but you know, we do a lot of fun stuff here, but we also got a lot of high level deep stuff that we work on and a lot of mindset, right? This is all mindset. And mindset is how you make all the money, man. So Delante, I appreciate everything as usual, man. Great role play. You're an awesome role play partner. And I appreciate you getting on the show again and jumping in and doing some cool stuff. Big thanks also for the Flip Factor family for listening. I know you guys have a lot of choices, a lot of cool stuff out there. Appreciate you spending your time with us. I'm Michael Green and my work is done and yours has just begun.